Hey guys, this is a market update. We're in a little bit of a pickle right now. Not a great situation for BTC. We have this big negotiation happening in the States, right? The spending bill or appropriations bill, whatever you want to call it, how much money gets printed and who gets it. And there's a lot of tensions happening, especially with Elon. We won't get into that in this video, but there's a lot of money to be printed, and how much is going to be printed? That's the negotiation, right? Trump wants to completely abolish the debt ceiling. I mean, if that it probably won't happen, but if that happens, I think we just get bid up into all-time highs, because that's basically unlimited money printing, right? So maybe it gets negotiated to 5 trillion. Or is it 5 trillion with what's happening now? Is it 1 trillion? Is it 3 trillion? We don't know. And so if the market doesn't know, it always sells off. And sentiment it's a bit embarrassing what's been happening over the last few days, right? But not great sentiment. We don't know if the bill's going to go through. Trump wants it done by July 4th. Maybe it gets pushed out. Uncertainty, markets are going to come off. This 95 level is where I want to look to maybe add to some of my short-term positions for this cycle. I think you can see a lot of trade around here. Might be a good support zone. We may not get there. Unfortunately, we're just coming below this 100 support level here. It's trying to be defended. It's a bit difficult. Again, it's just the negotiations in tariffs and the spending bill or the appropriations bill. We're going to have to get through that. But we know, right, more money has to be printed. More debt creation. We know that for certain. I'll show you the data on that as well. We know that's going to happen. We know that is the long-term case. There's just no way that the other alternative is going to be considered, which is basically the government saying we can't pay out our entitlements. That's not going to happen. More debt will be created. Bitcoin will go higher in fiat currency terms. We know that. For this short-term trading, 95 is where I'm looking at though. If you want to get the crypto course, the 20% discount you can see here expires, I think, this weekend. Type BTC at checkout, you get 20% off. Then you can see my May updates as well, which go through my kind of forecast for the next year or so. I think we're still in a bull market. And once the bill goes through and we get that spending, everything will be much more certain. I think we go higher. We have to get through that first though. But yeah, I'm still very, very positive for the rest of this bull market. Link below for that, 20% discount on the course, expires this weekend. And if you want to get a deposit bonus on Bybit, up to $30,000, whatever you deposit, they'll give you a bonus. Link below in the description. Bitcoin is long-term savings, right? You know that, I know that. So really, what is the use case of long-term savings? It is to store the purchasing power that you make now into the future, right? So whatever you make now, the value that you create now, in the future, you will be able to draw on that same value, which means that the placeholder you use for your savings, when you want to exchange it for goods and services in the future, it buys the same as it does now, or even more. That would be great, right? In fact, it should buy more, because if you wait 20 or 30 years, lots of people are going to do lots of work to create efficiencies in production. And so everything we do as humans is to essentially take work and effort out of the production of goods. So your savings should over time buy more, even if you're not doing anything, because the production of goods becomes more efficient through intelligence and creating abundance and production lines and economies of scale and everything else. Well, really, what we should compare Bitcoin to is the biggest 500 companies who produce most of the things that we consume. Go to TradingView. You can search for BTC, USD. Just search for the all-time history index, and then compare that, so / here, or divide, against the S&P 500. This is the chart. What I've done is gone to logarithmic here, and then I've just inverted the scale. You don't have to invert it. This is Bitcoin valued in S&P, which means that Bitcoin is going up in terms of the S&P 500. But I invert it to just say that the S&P, buying the S&P, is getting way cheaper. So the value of the S&P, the cost of the S&P, is crashing in Bitcoin terms. And we're basically at all-time highs here as well for Bitcoin against the S&P. Or the other way of looking at it is the things that we want to buy are the cheapest they've ever been if you hold Bitcoin. How much is the government going to spend? Is it 5 trillion? Is it unlimited? None of that kind of matters if you're just dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin over time. The things that you want to buy are the cheapest they've ever been. How good is that? So that's what Bitcoin is, right? It is just getting out of the political system, the debt-based system, right? And Elon has chosen to shout into a vacuum. Like I said in the Discord groups, Elon is shouting into a vacuum, right? Rather than just buying Bitcoin, right? And you can see on X, Bitcoiners replying, everyone is just so sanguine that's in Bitcoin because we've seen it all before, and we've just come out of that system. You will literally shout yourself to death in that system. You can't change it. So just remove yourself. Life is the best it's ever been if you're holding Bitcoin for any amount of time. The things you want to buy are the cheapest they've ever been. Life is good with Bitcoin. In politics, it's terrible. Why Elon is doing this, I don't know. But if you're a Bitcoiner, if you hold Bitcoin, life has never been better. Once this bill is negotiated and passed, I think then we can go higher as markets get more certainty about how much money is to be created. I don't know what Elon is doing. He is shouting into a vacuum because the vast majority of US government spending, and in other countries as well, is not a choice. It is mandatory spending, and the electorate will never vote for a cut in the spending of these things. This is healthcare. It's going up from 24 to 25. Who's going to vote for healthcare spending on their healthcare to go down? Nobody, right? So what Elon is actually asking for is a complete reset of the financial system where all prices fall 90%, and then we reset what money is spent. You can do that in a business. You can't do that in government. The whole point of government is that it's the arena for lobbying of redistribution of money, right? And so it's not a business. You can't just cut this because you'll become extremely unpopular. Politicians will be voted out. Elon will become a hate figure. So if he wants to do that, that's fine. But he's just not understanding reality right here. No one wants this to be cut. That's why there's a deficit, right? Healthcare spending will not be cut. Social security and pensions will not be cut. Treasury, this is interest rates. Well, you can't control that. The only way you can control it is the Fed if they reduce interest rates. That's up to them. Interest rates are very high right now. Why are they not cutting? Inflation is actually quite low, just a little bit above their target. Maybe the dollar has become a little bit weak recently, so maybe they're trying to keep interest rates high to prevent a fast weakening of that. I don't know what their game is, but this is bad, and you need to reduce interest rates. And the way you do that is by creating inflation through currency printing and stimulus. That's the only way you can debase this cost, right? You can't change this system. Defense, that's going up to $1 trillion as well, so that's not going to get cut. None of this is going to get cut, and this is a majority of spending. So Elon is shouting into a vacuum. I don't understand what he's doing. In any case, this is the amount of currency supply and circulation. People call Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, which has a flat supply curve and a hard cap of 21 million when this exists. I just don't get it. This is the outlook for potential debt. And if you look at this, all of these projections are always wrong. If you look at the two massive debt events, it was actually GFC and then the pandemic created a cumulative 17 trillion in debt, almost 50% of all US debt, right? And so we're negotiating about a spending bill, which, is just par for the course. It's just normal, everyday stuff versus these events. And of course, you can't predict positive events either, like potential AI and robotics, which could actually create wealth. Maybe Elon should focus on that a little bit more than politics. So what we need is more currency, right? What the government needs is more currency. The government has a shortage of currency because it has liabilities it needs to pay out in currency. And that shortage of currency is the debt, is that deficit. The government doesn't choose to pay out these things. The government is a representation of what the populace wants, right? The populace votes in people that say, we're not going to cut your healthcare, we're not going to cut your pensions, vote for me, right? No one's going to vote for someone that says cut everything. Elon thought he could. If Elon ran on a ticket of cutting spending everywhere, no one would vote for him. No one would vote for his party, his new party that he wants to set up, right? The government is us. We want the spending. That's why the deficit exists. It is us. The government has a shortage of currency because it has deficits it needs to pay out and it can't pay them. There's not enough currency. The government can create currency via debt creation, and that's what happens. And this is why we Bitcoin, right? There needs to be liquidity to pay for the liabilities. The Fed isn't helping out right now, and so the Treasury itself is stepping in. This is very small, by the way, bond buyback program. It's only 10 billion, which is a drop in the ocean, right? But if there is a shortage of liquidity, bonds go down, right? Interest rates go up, the whole thing gets even worse. So the whole entire game of this Ponzi scheme is just to make the rate at which it expands, keep it within this bound so that social disorder doesn't get too high. That's the game of government and spending and deficits, right? And so when liquidity dries up, the Treasury has to step in. It's the same old game, right? And if things get really bad and the Treasury can't do anything, that's when the Fed steps in. But trying to cut spending will actually make everything worse, because if you cut spending, that means you cut currency stimulus, which means you cut prices. Our Bitcoin and our houses are going to drop by 80%. The price level comes down, which means wages have to come down, which means tax receipts have to come down. But all of these liabilities are fixed, which means that the deficit gets even worse. I can't believe that Elon doesn't understand this and why the debt is being printed. But in any case, the debt will continue. Currency units will continue to be printed. And in currency units, Bitcoin will continue to go up. But again, that's not the game we're playing. We're playing long-term savings, where the things we really desire and want to buy need to get cheaper over time. And yeah, Bitcoin is scarce, and the production of goods in the economy should get more abundant over time. So we're all good, and this is why we Bitcoin. This chart from Raoul Pal basically explains perfectly the situation that we're in right now. Worrying about the debt ceiling, how much money is going to get printed, that's monetary and fiscal plumbing, right? And it's missing the forest for the trees. The big issue is that the baby boomer generation's too big for us to pay for. They're retiring, and they're at peak levels of desiring healthcare and their pension. And we can't pay for it. Our generation isn't big enough. We're not producing enough. There is a currency shortage to pay for that stuff that they need. And so the thing that changes is the debt, right? Inflation is happening. And so all of the pensioners who've saved in bonds in their life, they're getting debased over time because those bonds are buying less and less goods and services now. So they're getting hit. But of course, that debt goes onto the government side, which we have to pay in taxes as well, not just in the US, but basically everywhere now, right? And so the problem is that we are not producing enough to pay for them. And so there's a currency shortage, right? The private market, the free market, our free market that we're working in right now, the banks don't have enough stuff to lend against. We are not producing enough stuff to lend against in order to create that currency that provides the currency to pay for the taxes, to pay for the boomer generation's demand for healthcare and pensions. That's the issue. And in the middle is the debt. And that's the thing that draws this out. Rather than having a 1920s style crash where everything just drops in price, everyone realizes that there's actually no money in the banks, everyone can't get everything that they want. We don't want that. And so the debt's in the middle to smooth this out. Pensioners get hit because all of their bonds have less purchasing power. We get the debt that we have to pay for over time. And that's it. You have less people participating with labor, and the difference is made up with debt. Government debt takes it on and says, let's push it out and let's smooth this out. And that's what we're in. And that's not going to change. Demographics aren't going to change. The only thing we can look forward to is massive increases in productivity, which is AI and robotics, over the next 20 years, which may help us out. And we hope so. But this is the issue, right? And it's not going to change. And shouting at politics because they're spending 5 trillion here or 2 trillion here, they have to do that unless you want a massive crash. And no one actually wants that, which is why this happens all the time. So this is a problem, and we're not going to change it. If you want to save in bonds or cash, you'll be paying for all of this. And so our way as young people to get out of this is to create this asset known as Bitcoin, which you can save in, right, where we can save some of our value as well. So that's the game that we're in. So please don't miss the forest for the trees, right? This is the issue, not 5 trillion spending bill or anything like that. It's going way higher. There's just no other option. The trade right now is just to let this negotiation happen. Whether it's going to come in July or towards the end of the year, we don't know. They'll get something through before midterms anyway, right? Because they just want that done and they want the effects to be felt. So if we get to 95, I'll add to some short-term positions. If not, I'll keep dollar cost averaging. Bitcoin's going higher, we know that. If you want to get a deposit bonus, $30,000 on Bybit, down in the description below. And also the crypto course, 20% discount runs out at the end of the week, I think. Type BTC at checkout. You get all of my updates for free forever with the course, link below as well. I'm James, it's ManZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.